From Machakos, Kenya to Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, the Women at WEWE project started as a project by DW Academy with organizations from Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. They eventually realized East Africa is not complete without Rwanda. When we started implementing the project activities in 2018, women's safety online was not a popular topic as it is today. So while we were educating and advocating for women's safety and digital security, we also recognized that some women might be left behind due to digital illiteracy. So together we developed a curriculum and we added in components that were customized in our countries, where we ensured that we covered some of the challenges that we were seeing on the ground and included every woman, and also ensured their participation online. For example, we trained university students, female journalists, female politicians, and that's to name a few, and also some of the civil society organizations in our respective countries. We leverage also on our individual and collective expertise, skills, and experiences to launch regional campaigns on advocating for digital safety, advocating for safer regulations around online violence, gender-based violence, and also educating the public, because that was not a topic that was very popular in some of the countries, I would say particularly in Rwanda. And we have, over the past 5 years, we have worked with governments, the private sectors, and as well as some other civil society organizations. The impact we have had over the years, I think, can only be seen if you look at our digital footprint. If you Google Women at WEWE, or also look at some of the organizations you'll see here, you'll see how much we have done collectively and individually in our respective countries. And also, I cannot fully describe what Women at WEWE means to us or to me personally, but I think if you have to take anything, you can just know that it's an East African network that is advocating for women's digital participation and also advocating for women's safety online. And we're also proof that East African women can do anything they set their minds to if they collaborate well, and they also do not want to leave any woman behind. And I hope that the conversations that you'll hear today through our panelists, our speakers, and our exhibitions and breakout sessions will give you, will make you more enlightened on what the network has done and what it is about. And also, this is not the end, we're going to continue, but not only about the network, but also what we can collectively and individually do to reduce the gender digital gap. Thank you so much.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for having me. I would like to welcome all of you on behalf of Deutsche Welle Academy. And I really, really regret that I can't be there in real life, especially after really experiencing this very touching opening. And it does transfer even through the screens. So, and I know it must be much more emotional where you are in your room. So it didn't work out for me personally to be there, but I'm still very, very honored to speak to you this morning. I'm also impressed, extremely impressed to see the program you set up. And I would like to say that especially the title, or maybe the concept, is very appealing, and it's a bit surprising to me as well, because a fest means it's a celebration, and that's not the first thing you would think of when you know what the topic of this meeting is. So, I'm thrilled to see and to hear so many talented, strong women and men celebrating the achievements and using this occasion to ignite a powerful conversation about fostering safe, inclusive, and empowering spaces for women in the digital realm. And I would like to admit that this has a very emotional side to me, because I see myself as one of the, maybe let's say, assistant midwives of this project. As you've already mentioned, it started in 2018, and I remember at Deutsche Welle Academy, especially in the Uganda program, We were aware that online violence against women was a major problem, not only in East Africa, and we thought, okay, we need to do something about this. And I remember attending one, or maybe even, I think even two of the first meetings in Uganda, sitting somewhere in a lovely terrace with a small group of courageous, smart, outspoken women, some of them activists, some journalists, lawyers, and they had not only understood, but also, unfortunately, experienced how shameful, how brutal, how merciless attacks on women can be in the virtual world. The dimension was terrible even some years ago, and we all know it has become worse, not only in Africa, but all over the world. We also know, even if we didn't look at the figures now, that online violence transfers. It doesn't stay online often, but it transfers into real life. So during these first meetings, there was a lot of talking. The energy was directed at exchanging experiences, exchanging know-how, trying to find solutions, building a network. And I personally remember that I felt a bit overwhelmed by, all of these problems, and the solution seemed obvious, but also a bit futile. Addressing the problem, becoming vocal, advocating for attention, but who was really there to listen? And I know it's been a long road, and that's why I'm really, really impressed, and I would like to express you my respect for how far you've come on this topic. Because some have said the topic is now more popular, it's definitely changed over the last years. There's a lot more attention, and people in power have become aware that there are many achievements. We have NGOs that support women in reporting online violence. We have in some places laws that regulate cyberbullying and violence. We have in some places special police sections that will investigate. And due to the pressure that also you have kept up in the last years, the platforms are acknowledging that they're not just a provider of a technical playground, but they have a strong responsibility to create and safeguard a space where every woman and every person can fully embrace the opportunities the digital world offers without fear or discrimination. So just in brief, all of you know, I hope Deutsche Welle Academy stands for freedom of expression and information. At the heart of our mission lies the steadfast belief that freedom of expression and access to information are basic human rights enshrined in the UN Article 19. And I would just like to say that Deutsche Welle Academy's commitment stays. We take pride in our involvement in the Women at Web project. I would like to reaffirm our dedication to free speech. And we firmly believe that ensuring women's online safety transcends personal security. It's a foundational step toward a more equitable and inclusive digital future. I wish you lots of inspiration and success. Please take my best wishes and my admiration for what you're doing. Asanteni kwa kunisikiliza.
Karibu sana, Mrs. Schwank.
The German ambassador, Thomas ter Stegen, was meant to be here. He's our new ambassador to the country, and he just presented his credentials on Monday. So he wanted really to be here with you, and he sent me to send his very heartfelt greetings. And it is also to reaffirm that... to reaffirm that Germany stands very firm to promote not only gender equality, but also freedom of speech, of course. This said, you may wonder why I am standing here. I'm head of cooperation. That means that we are supporting development cooperation projects in Tanzania from the German government. And I'm also here because we are, as German government, supporting the Deutsche Welle Akademie and especially this project. I'm also standing here because I'm a media scientist myself, and I really feel you, and I'm so happy, and I feel welcomed, and it's a great pleasure to me to be back within my colleagues' kind of same bubble ground. Yeah. So I was given a speech that I will read to you, and I will add some things that came up to my mind. Yes, well, I'm privileged to share with you the profound importance of the Women at WEWE project, a collaborative initiative by Deutsche Welle Akademie and the Women at WEWE network. This project resonates with our commitment to fostering gender equality and empowering women, not just with Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, but as a beacon for women's empowerment worldwide. The German embassy is very proud of the great work of Deutsche Welle Akademie, and I'd like to take a chance to especially thank Miriam Olsen here, who's actually doing a wonderful job, and please clap your hands for Miriam. And well, the Deutsche Welle Akademie actually has been a strategic partner for the BMZ since already 2014. My government sets a strong emphasis on feminist foreign policy and feminist development policy. They circle around the 3 R's, which is rights, representation, and resources. And when I was driving here and thinking about Women at WEWE project, I was thinking that this is actually such an excellent representation of these 3 R's, because it helps actually to get women to fulfill their right of free speech in the digital sphere. Of course, representation in the web, and when we look at digital economy, the resources also are tackled. Yes. In our increasingly interconnected world, the internet has become an integral part of daily lives, offering opportunities for communication, education, commerce, and activism. However, it also brings significant challenges, especially for women. And Natasha has also mentioned these ones, and also in the beginning, a very powerful example that Kanan brought about this woman at YouTube, TikTok, I'm sorry, who was actually just doing her hair routine and was beaten up after it. I'd like to tell you a little anecdote very quickly. I was joining in like a round table or like a fireside chat more, which was organized by the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. And it was interesting because they had put together parliamentarians from East Africa and parliamentarians from Germany, women. And they were chatting, and they were both groups were trying to exchange perspectives and how to better collaborate. And then all of a sudden they came across hate speech on the internet. And it was so interesting to see that women, when they're present in the web, and when they actually have a strong voice and articulate their opinion, they are always the victims of hate speech and cyberbullying, and this actually calms them down. So when we want to fight against this, this is also a fight to promote women in the political sphere. And it also showed to me that this was not an East African problem. Of course, it's also a German problem, it's a European problem, it's a global problem. And I'd like to raise awareness to one thing that actually I find very important. And also my previous speaker, Natasha, was mentioning it already a bit. But we're talking about a global backlash here. And the global backlash against women and feminism and gender empowerment is very, very visible. And I think we have to be aware of it. We have to stand strong together, women everywhere, and also supported, of course, by feminist men, to really face this and to look behind the scenes and see who are the ones who are actually tackling this backlash. The Women at WEWE project confronts these issues head-on by providing safe and inclusive online spaces for women. Germany supports these initiatives for several key reasons. One, empowering women means dedication to gender equality, allowing women to express themselves freely and engage in public discourse without fear of harassment or discrimination. Two, digital inclusion. The project bridges the digital divide, ensuring women and girls in Tanzania, in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda can fully participate in the digital economy and society. Three, combating gender-based violence. By promoting online safe spaces, Women at WEWE reduces online harassment and gender-based violence, upholding the dignity and the rights of all individuals. Four, enhancing digital literacy. One cannot participate if one is not literate. The project improves digital literacy among women and girls, equipping them with the skills needed to navigate the online world safely. Five, regional collaboration. This goes back to what I had said before, that we need to stand close together. Germany supports Women at WEWE across multiple East African countries to encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing, forging a united front against online gender-based violence. As we celebrate the progress made in women's rights in the digital space, we must also acknowledge the work that lies ahead. Achieving gender equality and safe online spaces requires unwavering commitment and collaborative efforts. Germany is proud to be part of this journey. Our support to the Women at WEWE project is an investment in a future where women and girls can fully participate in the digital age, where their voices are heard, where they can exercise their rights without fear. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the organizers of Women at WEWE Festival, particularly Deutsche Welle Academy, but also, of course, Women at WEWE Network partners, and actually to all of you who have joined us today, and to stay, the ones that stay strong every day to promote women's rights, not only in the digital sphere, but also in the analog sphere. Together, we can create a safer, more inclusive digital world for women, not only in East Africa, but everywhere. Thank you.
It all started with a story, a media story. MP cries in court over love messages. That's how it was trivialized. That it's all about love stories, love messages. 870 messages were printed in court and displayed in court. And having come from a media background, there was nobody supporting me. Once this story came out, everybody put a blame on me. She's a mother, why doesn't she counsel this young man? In 1 minute, he's a young man of 25 years, and in another, people are encouraging me, you're a single woman, why don't you marry a man who has given you a favor to marry you at 42? That is the harassment that I suffered in Uganda. It's now 5 years since that happened to me, and now I'm here to tell the story. Maybe it came out because that was me. I was a member of parliament. I was popular. I was vibrant. Could it have been different if I wasn't a member of parliament? I am sure it would have not been different, because there are many women today who suffer in silence. They are not given an opportunity to come out. Every time they try to come out, the media gags them. It's unfortunate that the mainstream media could gag me in that terrible story. I felt down, I felt low. It was like I was in the middle of the forest in a large mountain with no one in sight, no one on my side except my family. who was also equally scared. Everybody was scared. My mother told me, why do you have to work? Why must you go to work? I had to miss committee meetings. I did not go for those meetings. Because every minute, I would not wink without a new call coming in. If I rejected it, another number would call, and innocently I received that call, and it is the same person harassing me on the other line. He says, you cannot run away from me. If I walked out with a red dress, he would know I am putting on a red dress, and he would say, I know you're putting on that dress. I like that dress. Please always put on that dress for me. So he was stalking me. He was always working with me. He was always watching me both online and offline. I could not sit in meetings. And the pain was not only from that harassment. The whole world turned against me because of the media outrage, the social media outrage that came out. Everybody was against me. He wasn't a victim. I wasn't considered as a victim or even sympathized with. Ladies and gentlemen, I suffered that. It's now 5 years. I cannot put it at a bag. I appreciate that we are coming here together as partners from all over East Africa to talk about sexual harassment, especially to make sure that women enjoy the safe spaces online. It is a terrible feeling. Imagine, even the media fraternity where I belong was not on my side. And every day, the gossip programs on TV, on radio, talked about me. She's a mother. She's not married. A man has given her a chance, has extended her an opportunity to marry her. And she's not even taking it. She's a terrible woman. She's not a nun. She's not a virgin. They said all the horrible comments, hurled insults at me, and said all sorts of things, abuses, and all unwanted comments to me and my family. It extended to my family, to my children in school. And what made it worse, my fellow members of parliament addressed the media, and they even raised funds for the perpetrator. That's how hurting it is. I stand here with emotions because I cry for the women in East Africa. If I could stand against it, because it was me, because I was a member of parliament, it cost me my constituency, because I lost all the questions I had to answer were about the young man that I took to court because of the harassment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today because we are going to launch a report which I form part of. My ideas and my suffering forms part of this. It is a worthy cause. Thank you for coming together to do something worthy that is going to support the women in East Africa. This harassment was trivialized. They just called it love. Someone is extending a hand to love me. And the fellow MPs made the legal support to the perpetrator. They were not bothered. I missed meetings. I was scared because I did not know the perpetrator. I would not walk free without watching my back. If I was shopping and I was pushing a lorry and a trolley and someone came from behind, I would turn and think maybe he's the one and just step on the side, thinking he would just pull out a knife and stab me dead. There are many women who have lost their lives. I am not the only one, but they have lost it in silence, and all of us are watching. Leaders, politicians, the media people, they are reporting and making fun of my situation, but there are many women who die and they are not even reported. The real story, is not out. My story is out because I was a member of parliament, and because I spoke, and because I stood so firm and made all the noise that was required. But I paid a price. It doesn't matter when I pay a price. I did not pay a price of my life. There are people who have paid using their lives as a price. Ladies and gentlemen, 8 months of silence before I reported was so tormenting. I would never sit in a house without closing doors, because I would think anytime he would walk in and kill me and kill my mother and the rest of my family. My children were bullied in school because of my experience. That is how bad it was. I want to come to the end. I don't know whether you feel what I'm feeling. I don't even know whether I can express it fully and you understand what it was, but it's terrible. I missed meetings. I did not perform the way I was supposed to perform. I had become a very vibrant member of parliament. I had stood against the age limit removal in Uganda, and that was the end of my performance. I gave up because all that mattered was for me to remain alive and nothing else. I am one woman who has been ushered into activism through this experience. That's why I stand before you and I can be able to talk about this story. Though painfully, it's 5 years, but the pain still remains. It will live with me forever. I call upon you, ladies and gentlemen, that I can be a resource. And there are many other women who would like to see someone reach out to them. There are many media people, being a person with a media training background. There are people who, there are media people, local media needs training. And I know that the report must have come out with many recommendations, but among those, please make me a resource. If you train me, I'll go out to others and I'll tell my story. And I'll get the skills and pass them on to others. And there are many other people who are willing to join. If we join together, ladies and gentlemen, we can make the safe spaces for the women that we are looking forward to after this report. Thank you so much.
In my personal level, and not to really share so much about it, I started as training people on data science and artificial intelligence. But because a lot of this was focused on empowering women, we attracted quite a bit of hate online. And the challenge with online violence is that you can't tell that it's Edith who is hating. It's just people that you can't see who say things that really stay in your heart and you can't put away. One of the things that I have experienced as a person in the context of working in artificial intelligence is that anytime we do events, and to be honest, this is the first event I have attended in, I think, three years. Because anytime we do events, I'll go online to see what is there to learn about. And there'll be people or bots, at this point I'm sure it's not people, just making weird comments about, I think she's a robot. Is she a human? Is she really human? All these weird and wild things. So first, I think I want to apologize to anyone who has experienced this. Don't let it shake you. There's a proverb in my culture, in my Kikuyu culture, that says that only a tree with mangoes has many boys around it throwing stones. So if people are throwing stones at you, it means that what you are doing, you need to keep doing. Walk through the pain, learn how to deal with it, but keep doing it. So don't be silenced. I know that doesn't answer the question.
Not at all.
Yes, but I really just wanted to start there.
That's a good place to start anyhow, but because you mentioned it, I think I'm just going to piggyback off of it. You mentioned the different forms and manifestations that online violence takes. Can you perhaps share some examples that you've come across, perhaps not in your personal experience, but in your work as a data scientist?
I think the challenge with the online spaces is that in this physical place, you can only be yourself. So there's only one Modoni. But in the online space, I can be Modoni, I can be user 2354, I can be someone purporting to be in Zambia or Rwanda or wherever. So you're able to take on very many different personalities. And the thing with the digital world is that it only amplifies our biases as humans. So we live in a world where, for example, in Kenya, there was a time when, I think you can remember this lady was just walking on the streets and some people stripped her because they thought that she was indecently dressed. So that's in the physical world. But in the digital world, no one can track that this comment came from so-and-so and hold them accountable. So people are able to really say and do things that when we sit and look at them and wonder, did that really come from that room? You can't believe it. So, yeah, I think that's a challenge.
Okay, so let's just toss it to Sylvia, because this is sort of your world. tracking this hateful behavior and language? And you said it takes different forms. Sometimes it's revenge porn. Sometimes it's somebody consistently asking you, when are you going to have a baby? Or people just, you know, it might not be flagged words, but it's harassment for you. So how do you track and follow through? Is it even possible, Sylvia?
I hope you can hear me. We just had a technology, and this is where AI also plays a lot of, plays a big role. So for tools, we have tools that, number one, would proactively detect the harmful content and would remove it from our platforms, but also tools that empower the people who are using our platforms to respond or engage. And finally, we have resources that would allow you to get the information that you need to know how to stay safe on our platforms. So that is like an overview of how we are looking at different forms of online violence against women and the holistic approach that we are using for this. I know we have other questions that will allow me to deep dive into the technology that we are particularly using for non-consensual intimate images, commonly referred to as revenge porn, and also how we are actively engaging with artificial intelligence to deal with the various forms of abuse types.
Yeah, we're going to get into that in just a second. But earlier you did say, and in fact many people here have repeated that today, that women are more prone to online violence. Why is this?
So what we have seen, and in my experience, before joining Meta, I was also in the human rights world, where I worked a lot on women's safety issues and women's rights issues. And with the coming in of the internet, you see a lot of women coming to participate. So either you're starting your businesses on online platforms, you're looking for spaces to educate yourself. But then the biggest thing, which is where I find the social media plays a big role, is a place where we can come and freely express ourselves. And so in a lot of contexts all across the world, women expression is really guarded. And when we're looking at, especially, I'm Kenyan, and when I look at the environments in which I come from, there are a lot of like cultural and traditional barriers to the way that I can express myself. And so when I go online, and I express myself as a woman, as I should be, then I am met with people who would find that to be offensive, or, you know, who would not allow it for one reason or the other. So in short, what I'd like to say is the violence is mostly starting offline and has just found a new voice online.
Right.
So we're seeing it just migrating from offline to online.
Yeah, and I also like the point you've impressed, that it really has nothing to do with the women, but the men who are perpetuating this violence. You had something to add on to that, Lindsay, before I introduce Azaria.
Yes, thank you very much, Sylvia. I'm happy you're here. I'm very happy Meta in particular is here. You say that...
Oh, you're ready for a fight, aren't you?
Maybe. You say that, that Meta takes the safety of women seriously. I have trouble believing that. I have direct evidence that that is not true. I've worked with a client whose Facebook account, back when it was called Facebook, her account was hacked into. And the person who hacked into her account flooded it with naked pictures of herself. We did everything we could to try to get that account back. We failed. We spoke to a fancy gentleman in a suit from Facebook at a conference who said, yeah, I'm going to go back to the States and going to work on it. Yeah, we really care about women. That page is still there today. Her children are going to grow up and see their naked mother on that Facebook page. When my account was locked, I failed to get back access into it. Twitter not had, Gmail not had. Meta, if you're African, I'm calling that card right now, impossible. Meta does not care about Africans. And the proof I have of this is they sent a letter like that to a man who was trying to get access to his account. And we are sorry, we do not offer these services to this part of your country.
Okay, let me give Sylvia a chance to quickly respond to that.
Thank you. I'm not very familiar with the case that Lindsay is sharing, and so if there's any way you can send this to me, and I will retaliate that we take women's safety. It's a priority for us. Safety in general is a priority for us, and especially women's safety is a priority for us. And that's why we have a team that is dedicated towards this. I was hired at Facebook at the time in 2019, and since then, the team that I'm working with has greatly grown. I was hired to particularly look at safety for Africa, Middle East, and Turkey, and so engage with different communities to ensure that we are responding to such cases that you are bringing to light. And so if there's anything that hasn't, or any experience that you're having that is negative, feel free to get in touch with me. We also have public policy teams that are based in the continent. We have public policy teams in East Africa, based in Kenya, that are also actively engaging. And so when it comes to issues that's pertaining to the African context, we also take them very seriously. If you look at the way the team has grown, we have a lot of individuals from the continent who are looking at the issues that pertain to the continent.
Yeah, thank you, Sylvia. And I think she did say that later on she'll be going into the details of these safety tools. But Nazar, I want to bring you in now because something interesting was mentioned, which is freedom of expression. And what we're seeing now is a trend, particularly on YouTube and in the podcasting space, for men who are conservative in their political approach, using that guise of freedom of expression to express very severely misogynistic views. And I think Andrew Tate just comes top of mind. So how do you protect yourself as a woman against a machinery? Because it's not just one individual in that case, it's a group, a herded group of men targeting sometimes a singular individual.
Thank you so much, Edith. My name is Nazarius Kirama. I work for Internet Society Tanzania chapter, and I'm glad to be the only man in the panel. And in Africa, there is a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think it takes both men and women to be able to, to take care of this violence. Number one. Number two, I would like to congratulate Mheshimiwa for standing strong. And I think sometimes you have all this bad stuff that launches a very good thing out of it. And I believe that it is because within yourself there is something which is bigger than the world itself. And that is why all these, things, came upon you. And actually, they are making you more stronger to fight against online violence against women. On the issue of the machinery, it is unfortunate that things like that can happen online because they are not supposed to be happening. One of the things that could be able to help with that is the investment in artificial intelligence. Be helpful in terms of fighting the machinery, and also the laws that are available in each constituencies, in the constituencies in which all these things are happening, could also be very helpful. However, I would like to start from the standpoint of, what is making all this machinery online to fight, to fight women. I think one of the things that, I see happening is that we have a lot of insecure, men out there. So they are just
Please
trying to
say it louder for the people at the back.
Yeah, they are insecure. I mean, how do you go on, you know, fighting women online? It is an equivalent of fighting your own mother when she's making ugali or something like that. So I think we have plenty of men who have been very insecure from their backyards. So they bring all this baggage online, trying to you know, chokoza, you know, wanawake. So I think it comes from the what I would call the I have like 2 things or 3 things I wanted to say. Number one, what is happening in the families that we have, and what is happening with every individual, whether man or woman, in terms of seeing these things. Because if we are talking about, you know, online violence against women, it is not something which, you know, happened just by a sheer luck. It is something which has been breeding for a long time, and you will find that families that we are raising would one day either exacerbate online violence or make peace, just like Angel and Kenan were saying at the beginning of this show. So I think the combination of insecure men and lack of, you know, educational tools and awareness in terms of what they should do as men is what actually is doing all this. Because I don't see any other reason why that should happen for a fully grown man trying to, you know, meet violence against a woman. That is lack of gentlemanship.
But sometimes it's also lack of humanity, because women are also guilty of doing this. And Modoni, I'm wondering, you know, as an educator or in that field, how are you teaching kids, essentially, because those are the people who are mostly on the internet and on social media spaces. What do they do if they have a run-in with a member of parliament? Because sometimes they're known to also mouth off and perpetuate what we're talking about here, online violence against women. In that case, what are the practical steps?
Interesting question. I think teaching kids is, they learn from us. So what we do at home, our children amplify on the streets. So we have to start by training ourselves, by learning to see each other the way we should, and not through the lenses of the violence and the content that we see online. One interesting thing about the algorithms that have been used to create most of the digital platforms is that their goal is to make sure you are constantly on that site. So for example, if we have, I think we have Wi-Fi here, so if we ask each of us to go onto TikTok for five minutes, what is likely to happen is that after 5 minutes, you'll still be scrolling and thinking, you know, that was just 1 minute. Please give us our 4 minutes. We need our 4 minutes. And that is on how the platforms have been created. They are created to ensure that you're constantly on them, scrolling, accessing content. But what is interesting with humans, all of us, is that we are all very likely to watch content that is weird instead of content that is positive. So with the same data, it's unlikely that we will be watching women at web, but very likely that we'll be watching content that is hateful or content that is trendy and all of that. So I think in terms of training, so within hardcore AI training, we are starting to really discuss the biases that are included in the systems that we use. So for example, we use a lot, for AI systems to work, you need to collect a lot of data. And most of the data that is used to train the systems is not very representative of marginalized groups, so Africans, women, or any other marginalized groups. And this is amplified. It's created in the product, but will be amplified that once the product is used.
The best of the worst, I've heard it called sometimes.
Yes, yes. Yeah. So that is within building the tech. But at personal level, I think once you go through an online violence situation, you become very sensitive to what it is that you say and how you say things. I would not wish for anyone to go through what Sylvia went through, because it's not necessary. It's not necessary. But once you hear it, you become very keen on what it is that you do online.
Yeah, and actually, Modoni, you had mentioned this earlier, how it's affecting women going into STEM professions, for example. Could you please expound on that as being an impact, of a long-term impact of online violence against women?
So I think for the longest time, before the digital platforms were created, I think violence against women was encouraged. Is that the case? Where our ancestors, I've heard of cases where women would be told, you know, if your husband doesn't beat you a bit, he doesn't love you. So that's what we carry through what our ancestors have passed on. And now that we live in a world where physical violence is not allowed, it's been shrunk into online violence, and we now use our words to fight each other. And we have all learned which words carry the most weight. So because we live in a world where you have 140 characters to express yourself, you want to use those 140 characters to say something that will never leave that person's mind, right? But we should use this as an opportunity, I think, to build each other up. One challenge that is there is that most of the digital platforms are flooded with such bad content, hate, harmful content and all of that. And unless we take the initiative to create good content, this will continue to be what is perpetrated through our algorithms. So one of the things that happens is that once you go through an online violence challenge, you tend to kill your accounts, go offline, never online again. But what the evil, the harmful things that were said are still there. So this may not sound like very professional advice, but I think we have to encourage ourselves to continue being in online spaces and creating content that adds value to the online world. Yeah.
And obviously, we were talking about that intersection between online and offline, that what happens online does have an implication offline. And so when you think about societal implication of online violence against women, what would you say it is? We heard briefly from Sylvia that her children were being bullied at school for something that was never her problem to begin with, you know, it wasn't her fault.
Thank you very much, because I actually had 3 points I wanted to talk about. So I'll start with the one that you're talking about. Online spills offline, offline spills online. In Mr. Chirama, is that it? Yes. Kirama, yes. You talked about the family unit and how young men are being raised today, or boys are being raised today. In Uganda, there is this new movement about mentorship for men, boys mentorship. There's a gentleman called Godfrey Bukenya who runs an academy to raise boys correctly. But what he's doing, what the mentorship is reminding them that 1950 was the best time to be alive for a man. Period. If you go to his timeline and look at the advice that he gives women and men, women, you've forgotten your ancestors, you have forgotten your ways. You must kneel to greet your husband. Women, make sure you get to work
you leave work early because you should serve your husband. No one should serve your husband. And Edith, you talked about how even as women we have a role to play. I want to meet these mothers who are taking these boys to this academy. Because these are the people who are online assuming that they are superior. And then they find a backlash from women who are saying, hell no, it's 2023. Get over yourself. First of all, you're even short. You don't have a car. Like women are, girls can be horrid. And that's where the insecurity comes in. They start to take it really, really personally, like men will kill women for rejecting them, you know?
So are you saying that this is a direct impact? Which comes first here? It's like an egg and chicken situation. Is it the online forums that create the academies offline, or the academies offline that then feed and infiltrate the online personas?
I think that the online forums created a strong movement for women, and then offline, society began to realize this is not going to work. You know, more women are being hired, more women are getting STEM opportunities, more women are doing this. And instinctively, they want to fight that.
All right, so you said you had 3 points. That was the first.
Yeah, that was the first. Yes. Then, Mutoni, you talked about algorithms influencing content. This is so true, guys. It is so true. I went through a phase where I was scrolling like I was being paid for scrolling. And I found that my mind was being conditioned to criticize, to look at flaws, to say things like, dude, you're even bold. For no particular reason, my mind was just starting to be conditioned to attack, to complain, to look for bad news. And the more I did that, the more the algorithms gave that to me.
Lindsay, just pause your thought there for a second, because I really want Sylvia to respond to this. Is it true? You know, I've heard it said multiple times that social media and the algorithm rewards outrage. That, you know, the words which have anything to do with hate and violence are the ones which usually rank on top. True or false?
I speak to my expertise when it comes to safety and then focus on the safety policy issues, and so I can really talk more about what we've done to counter that, because we do understand that we do not want anyone to go through a rabbit hole of especially bad content, and so priority is always ensuring that that bad content is not on online platforms. But we do not like actively monitor, or we do not try to moderate, because it's not our position to do that. With that said, what we have done on the other hand is ensure that we have developed tools to ensure that anyone who's using our platform has more control over the time that they're spending on our platform, and ensuring that the time they are spending is towards a more positive experience. So we have tools such as take a break. We have a tool such as nudges, which will nudge you anytime that you are scrolling, especially for the young people who are scrolling, through social media and scrolling on one piece of content. Then you will be nudged and recommended on a different type of content, just to ensure that you are not feeding yourself in one piece of content. So there are a variety of tools that we've launched to ensure that we are encouraging positive spending of time on social media, and just generally encouraging wellness, even if you're on social media platforms.
All right. So, Lindsay, back to your point.
Yes. So to wrap up with the mind conditioning, I think a perfect example is what happened with the former president of Gabon, when people made a song about his plea for help.
Do you mean the just ousted one?
Yes, the just ousted one, from the outside world. Make noise, really. And for some time, a few days, I was having a good time. I was dancing. I was looking at all the different varieties of make noise, really, yeah, make noise. And then I sat down and began to think about it. This man is scared. This man has been charged with treason. We don't know if this man is going to be taken to the back of a compound and shot in the head. Why are we happy? Why is this fun? This man has a family. This man has people who love him, like, yeah, we might not enjoy the fact that you've been in power for 55 years, but that's not your fault. That was a result of your upbringing, and your family made sure that you took over. He never really had a choice in the matter, you know?
Yeah.
And that's when I really realized algorithms, conditioning. You can become a nasty human being just by what it is that you're watching online. So it's something that I'm now working hard to undo, to stop celebrating other people's pain. Then lastly, I had a question for Mr. Kirama. You said very assertively that men are insecure nowadays. I'm so curious. I've always been curious. Why?
Why are they?
Did you just ask him why men are insecure? I don't know if he's qualified to speak for all men, but
that was actually my opinion as it related to why are they doing all this bullying stuff. I think there is an issue about